Yep, that was my top thoughts that just decided to leave the track. I may have overcooked that last double a little bit. Hey there, how's it going? My name is David and you're watching Kai City RC. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the Old Scooooool Nationals. And I'm saying it like that because it's spelled with six O's in the school part. So I guess it's supposed to be said like school. Old Scooooool Nationals. This was an event held this past weekend. It was hosted at Carnosa Fumotto here in Yamanashi, and the event was organized by Rickside Design. I've been looking forward to this event for a couple of months now, and it did not disappoint. I believe I speak for everyone who was in attendance. It was a superb day out. For a while, it looked like it might not go ahead. The rain was forecast for the entire weekend, and it rained all day Saturday until early evening. But fortunately, it dried up, and we were able to run on the Sunday, although the track was very wet in the morning, not muddy but almost so, and it stayed damp throughout the day. This is one of my local tracks. I don't get to it as often as I like, but every time I have run on it, again, video links in the description below, it's always been very dry, very dusty, not a lot of traction. So it was quite a different driving experience this past Sunday, and they just also changed the layout, so it was my first time to drive on this new layout. So what can I tell you about the Old Scooooool Nationals? Well, I believe this is the first Old Scooooool Nationals. Certainly it's the first one that's been held in Yamanashi at Carnosa Fumotto. And the concept, the idea about it is just fun with RC, nostalgia. I recently watched another RC YouTuber, I forget who it was, but in their video they said the race they were at was more about good times than lap times. I think that really aptly describes the Old Scooooool Nationals. It wasn't a race to be taken seriously. There were 5 classes of races. The first being a grasshopper class. Then there were 2 classes, a 2-wheel drive and a 4-wheel drive, where the regulations required you to use a 380 or 540 motor. Now both of those classes were marshal-less, team chomage deathmatch style races, where if you crash or get stuck or immobile, you're out of the race. And then there were 2 more, another 2-wheel drive and another 4-wheel drive class, open classes. So you were pretty much free to run anything you wanted in terms of motor, electronics, ESC, gearing. The only regulation for those were tires. And overall, the event was open to anything that was made up to and including the year 2000. And the organizers made a point of saying it's not a serious race, it's not a competitive race, and indeed there was no scrutineering. There was no podium at the end. There was no announcing the winners. It was just, go there, run whatever you want, have a laugh, meet interesting people, enjoy the hobby, etc. And in that regard, this event really succeeded. It was just a fabulous day out. I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say that. We all had a great time. Nevertheless, despite it not being a competitive race, I'm sure some of you are wondering what buggies I ran, what classes I entered, and how well I did. So let's talk about that. You are watching the 4-wheel drive open class A main, and that just there was my top 4. So spoiler alert, I managed to get into the A main on the 4-wheel drive open class, and I also managed to get into the A main with the 2-wheel drive 380 540 marshal-less class. Yeah, I was very surprised. After qualifying had finished, a friend of mine came up to me and he's like, "David, you're in the A mains." And I was like, "Huh? Yeah, what? Really? Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yep, you're in the A mains." So I was quite surprised. I did not expect to do that well, but it seems I did. So what did I choose to run? Well, for the 2-wheel drive 380 540 class, I chose to run my Tomahawk. So you might be wondering, well, why would you choose a Tomahawk over, insert car name here? Basically just because I like running it. It's, to be sure, it's not the most competitive car that I own, but it wasn't about winning, and I just really like running the Tomahawk. Mine is almost completely standard. It's got a CNC motor mount, but that's about it. And I just ran it. And in fact, I didn't even do any maintenance on it before I ran it. I just pulled it off the shelf and took it down and ran it. So it ran flawlessly, although by the end of the day I noticed a couple of screws had started to back out. Unfortunately, I kind of packed up for the day when I realized that. But yeah, it got into the A main. I don't know where I came, and it doesn't really matter. For the four-wheel drive, as you can see, I entered the top force, and again, some of you might be wondering, well, why choose a top force over an Optima Mid, a Super Dogfighter? And indeed, as you can see here on the A main, the field is dominated by mids, although there was a Super Dogfighter and also an RC10 four-wheel drive that was properly quick around the track. So why did you choose a top force? Well, some of you probably know that I was no fan of the top force back in the day, but I picked one up late last year, and as soon as I built it and run it, I absolutely fell in love with it. In my opinion, the top force is probably, outside of the TRF stuff, one of the best chassis that Tamiya has ever produced. Personal opinion, of course. It just handles really, really well and punches way above its weight. The looks I was never a fan of, but they're kind of growing on me, and it just drives so nice. And so when this event was announced, I was like, well, what am I going to run? Should I run an Optima? Should I run a Javelin? Should I run the Optima Mid? Should I, run a Super Dogfighter? I thought, no, I'm going to run a top force. There was another reason as well. This track is normally very dry, very dusty, and the dust and the grit gets absolutely everywhere. And if you've ran an Optima Mid or an Optima or a Super Dogfighter, you'll know that they can end up with all sorts kind of like jammed between the belt and the pulleys. And in the case of the Kyosho's, the Optima Mid, in order to clean the gearbox out, you pretty much got to strip the car down. So the top force is easy to seal up and very easy on maintenance, so that was another reason, but mostly just because I like it, and it drives really well. Even on carpet, it does drive really well. So yeah, I got into the A mains. I honestly don't know where I came, and again, it doesn't really matter though. Somebody did tell me that my top force set the fastest lap in the A main, so yeah, go team top force. I think it was probably more luck than anything else. But overall, yeah, the Old Scooooool Nationals was a fabulous event. There were several notable guests there, including Atsushi Hara, Radio Gaga. If you're familiar with Japanese YouTubers, you'll know who he is. There was also Team Chon Mage there. Nori-san from Pine Beach was there. RC Magazine was there. And I got to speak to so many interesting people and just see such a variety of cars. There was so many cars, not just on the track, but in the pitting area as well. And I think most importantly, the event, as you can probably tell, it's held in a I want to call it a tourist area. It's Fumotto, the wider area is designed to kind of promote local produce and things such as that. There's a big Costco nearby that's recently built. So the event was attracting spectators who wouldn't normally see something like an RC event, and I think it's a great way to promote the hobby and get, the next generation interested in the hobby. So overall, yeah, fabulous day. I'm certainly hoping that they're going to do it again next year. I will definitely be adding that to my calendar. That's it from me. Hope you've enjoyed this little video review of the Old Scooooool Nationals. I'm going to shut up here, and I'll catch you in the next one.
ホットショットですね。1番手ですよね。